guys, I'm Miss Saeed, and in this video I'm going to teach you how to warm up before you play guitar, and I also have some exercises that you can do on guitar to help warm you up a little bit more. Warming up before you play guitar is often overlooked even by the most advanced players, but it's really important if you want to be able to play well. It's really important to have fingers that are nice and warmed up so you're not stiff before you try to rip out any solos. But also, warming up before you play guitar can actually help prevent future injury. Throughout this video, I've got multiple different exercises that you guys can try. So let's get into the ones that we do before we play guitar. But I just want to say, if you don't want to do all of these, you don't have to. In fact, you don't even have to do any of them if you don't want to. But if you would like to warm up before you play guitar, here are some exercises. So the first exercise is basically a finger stretching exercise. So essentially what I do is I keep my hands straight and basically I just push my fingers back a little bit, and this should not be uncomfortable, it shouldn't hurt, and essentially what you're doing is you're just stretching your fingers out a little bit, and after a couple of seconds you do it to the other hand. And it is important to warm up both hands and all 8 fingers. So essentially I just go between them, and I usually do this 4 times for every hand. So after that, I want to show you an exercise that I actually got shown by my physio, because when I was younger, when I was about 18, 19, I actually had really bad tendon problems, and I went and saw physio, and he said you need to start warming up before you play, and this is one of the exercises that he showed me. So essentially you want your full arm straight, you don't want it bent because it doesn't work as well if you have your arm bent. So essentially I just hold my hand out and my arm straight, and I make a fist. You don't have to, you can just have your fingers out flaring like that, but I like to have it in a fist. And he said what you do is you take it down and you take it over hand and you just hold it there, and you can even pull it a little bit further if you want, but don't hurt yourself while doing this. But when you do this, you will feel a little bit of a pulling around here, and that's perfectly okay. And then after you hold your hand down, you let it loose and you put it up, and then you just take your fingers and gently pull them back a little bit. You don't want to be yanking your hand down at any time. You just want to hold it up like that. And I do that for each wrist, and I'll hold it down for 4 times and then hold it up for 4 times. And remember that when you stretch, to hold them for a couple of seconds, because warming up before you play guitar is kind of like warming up before you do a sport. So if you're going to go out for, say, a 5-mile run, you wouldn't just sprint off, you would warm up a little bit beforehand, and that's really what warming up before you play guitar is. The next exercise that I have for you guys is called the finger and thumb exercise, or at least that is what I call it. So for this one, all you do is you take your fingers and you touch your thumb with each of them, and you do this for both hands. But you will find that if you don't do things like finger picking or hybrid picking, then you will find that the fingers for your picking hand will feel stiff compared to the fingers on your fretting hand. But the cool thing about this is that you can actually do it in a different order, so you don't have to go like that. You can go and make up different things, really, just to keep yourself entertained, because sometimes warming up can be tedious. But yeah, this exercise is really good just for getting your fingers moving a little bit. So yes, that is the finger and thumb exercise. This next exercise is what I call the wave, because it literally looks like you're waving at someone. So essentially what you do is you hold out your arms straight and you just do this. And this is something that, to be honest, if you don't have a wrist issue, if it's not hurting at all, you don't necessarily feel the benefit too much. But if you do have a sore wrist, then you will feel a pulling down here. But this is good. I find that it really makes a difference when I'm doing gigs and when I'm warming up, apart from the fact that when I'm doing this, people think that I'm waving at them, and I'm like, I'm not waving at you, I swear, I'm just warming up. But yeah, I actually got this exercise from another guitar player, so yeah, hopefully it will work for you too. Okay, so that is it for the exercises before we play guitar. And I know they probably seem tedious, and you're probably thinking to yourself, how much do these really work? Because they seem really subtle. But that's the point, because if you are going for a 5-mile run, you wouldn't just run 1 mile for a warm-up. You would actually do little subtle exercises before doing that so that you don't pull a muscle. And playing guitar, like I said, is pretty much the same principle, where when you are warming up, you don't want to be doing things too difficult, because essentially what you want to do is you want to warm up your muscles and stretch out your tendons just a little bit. So that's it for the exercises before we play. And now let's move on to the exercises that you can do on guitar. So now that I have my guitar, let's go over these exercises. So I actually have 4 exercises that I do when I'm warming up. 2 of them are exercises that I like to do when I'm warming up for lead work, and 2 of them are for chord work. So let's get into it. So I don't actually have my guitar plugged in at the minute, but I'm sure you'll be able to hear it anyway. This is exercise number 1, and this is good to warm up for solos. So if you are following along on guitar, on the high A string I am playing 7, on the B string I am playing 8, on the G string I am playing 9, and then on the D string I am playing 10. And when I'm ascending in pitch, like that, I'm actually using a upstroke. And then when I go back, so I do this, when I play it this way, I'm actually playing 7 on the D, 8 on the G, and 9 on the B string, and then 10 on the high A. And I actually like to move this up the neck and down. So for example, you can also do this exercise starting from the B string if you wanted. So it's the same principle as this one, except you just move and start from the B string. The second exercise that I like to do for lead work is this sort of thing. So essentially what I do is I have 1 finger per fret, and I do different patterns, and then I do that same pattern on the next string. So if you wanted to, you could go and then I would ascend in pitch, so I would go back up. So yeah, like I said, you can do any pattern you want. You could go, if that's what you wanted to do, you could go that type of thing, completely up to you, but they are the 2 that I use for lead work. When I'm warming up for chords, I generally just go through all of my major and minor open chords. And I find that's really useful, because then when I've done that, it's actually easier to go on to doing bar chords. So after I've done my open chords for a little bit, I'll move on to some bar chords, and you can play around. You can do majors, or you can do minors, you can do dominants if you want. But that's the principle that I use, is that I use the open chords for warming up initially with chords, and then I move on to bar chords. That is it for today's video, and I hope you enjoyed it. So yeah, you don't have to do warm-ups if you don't want to. It is indeed a choice, but I choose to warm up every time I play, because when I was younger I didn't used to warm up and I started to get tendon issues. Although I'm sure there's more to play as to why I get those. But because I do these warm-up exercises, it's really made it easier for me to play. And whereas I used to get loads of wrist issues, I don't get them that much now. Like I literally get, if I get a bad wrist, it's like once in a blue moon. And I do think it is in part to doing these warm-up exercises before I play. So yeah, if you enjoy this, I do have other beginner video lessons here on my YouTube or my Facebook, because I think I'm uploading this to my Facebook page too. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and I have some other videos if you would like to check them out as well.